And launching on October 26th, we have Hanamikoji, Geisha's Road, and this plays 2 players and takes about 20 to 30 minutes to play. And this is not an expansion to the game Hanamikoji, it's actually its own standalone game in the series, but this campaign will be offering an expansion that will work for both of these games, which I'll get to shortly. But this game does have quite a few similarities to its predecessors, so I think it's worth explaining how to play Hanamikoji so you can get a better understanding of this game. And both of these will be offered in the campaign, so you might want to know both of them anyway. And in the original Hanamikoji, players are competing to recruit geishas to their side. There's 7 geisha cards that get put face up in the middle of the table, and then there's a deck of 21 cards that will get dealt out to each of the players each round. And although it's not visible in this image, each geisha will also have a token on it, and if the token is in the center of the card, it means that neither player has recruited that geisha. And what players will want to do is try to move that token to their side of the card, indicating that that geisha has been recruited to their side. Each geisha card has a number as well as a color associated with it, and this tells you how many cards of each color are in that deck of 21 cards. The number also represents the prestige of each individual geisha. Each player is going to have 4 one-time use action tokens, and on their turn they're going to draw 1 card from the top of the deck, and then they're going to take 1 of these actions. The different actions are to keep a card of your choice in secret, or to discard 2 cards of your choice in secret, or you can show 3 cards to your opponent, they get to choose 1 and you get to keep 2, or you can split 4 cards into 2 piles, show them to your opponent and they get to choose 1 to keep and you keep the other. Once each player has used all of their tokens, the end of the round is triggered, and players are going to go through each geisha one by one and determine which player has the majority of cards matching that geisha, and then you're going to move the token to that player's side. The interesting aspect here is that if players tie, then that geisha stays recruited with whoever was recruited in the previous round. So if that geisha was already on your side, then she stays on your side. There's 2 win conditions to this game. Either you recruited 4 out of the 7 geishas, or the geishas that you recruited have a total prestige of over 11. If both of these conditions are met, then the 11 prestige takes priority. And that's pretty much all there is to know in order to play Hanamikoji, and I guess now is probably a good time to mention that this one is also my pick of the week. And it might seem like this is a pretty simple game for being my pick of the week, but this game is actually no joke, and there's nothing wrong with simple games. And I think a more accurate word for this game would be elegant. You might not have noticed, but each round you're actually only using about half the cards, which means that there's quite a lot of different permutations with the cards that actually come into play. And each round's going to be playing very differently than the last. And players are going to be trying to play their actions the best that they can with their limited info, while trying to determine which cards their opponent is trying to go for. Back when I used to have free time, I liked to spend that time designing board games, and whenever I was deciding to add or remove something from a game, I always considered how much fun did it add to the game, and what is the cost in terms of time or complexity that it also adds to the game. And the more and more I look into this game, the more it seems to be checking off those boxes for me for presenting some really fun decisions and having a lot of depth, but then at the same time being really easy to teach and then quick to set up and play. So this looks like a really solid game, and you don't even need to take my word for it, because this little game is actually ranked in nearly the top 200 on Board Game Geek. Like I said, this one is no joke. At first I wasn't a huge fan of the theme on this one personally, and that was kind of holding it back for me, but in the amount of time I spent researching this game, it's kind of grown on me, and I think it's kind of neat that the elegance of the game is also matched with the very elegant theme. Geisha's Road definitely took some inspiration from Hanamikoji because there are a lot of similarities between these 2 games, but I do think the differences are substantial enough that this will add a unique spin on a game that many people already know and love. The game has a similar setup, but rather than 7 cards, it's going to have 5 in the center of the board, and then players are still going to be dealt 6 cards and have 4 different action tiles. And for the most part, the turn sequence plays nearly identical, except for in Geisha's Road, there's a completely new module added to the game. This game is going to have a set of tea house cards put out into a circle, and anytime a card is played, the geisha matching that card moves clockwise equal to the number on that card. If a geisha ever moves back to its same colored tea house, then you're going to add a lantern card to that tea house, indicating that it's worth 3 points. And this is how prestige is measured in this version of the game. Up to 2 of these lantern cards can be put on each tea house, meaning that each one could be worth up to 6 points or 6 prestige. Whichever player has that geisha recruited at the end of the round gains that prestige, and the player with the most prestige wins the round. The first player to win 2 out of 3 rounds wins the game. There's also a little mini expansion that comes with the box where players can collect different guest tokens and use set collection to gain some additional points. And I did mention at the start that there will be an expansion for the original game, but it also works for Geisha's Road as well. And this expansion is going to come in the form of 7 boxes shaped like omamori, which is a type of trinket that's supposed to help you with good fortune in different areas of your life. But each of these boxes is going to offer a different set of action tiles, and these action tiles work with both versions of the game. And it's going to add quite a lot of variety to your games, because now instead of just the same 4 tiles, you're going to have 7 different options to play with. Once again, here's an example of something that's really simple but adding a ton of depth to your game. So if this one interests you, don't forget that you can click to get notified, and you can find links to all these campaigns in the description below.